Welcome to Whispers and Confessions. There might be a twist waiting, so please make sure to watch until the end. Don't forget to subscribe and like. Let's begin right away.
My lips traced a tender path from her graceful neck down to her chest, our bodies moving together naturally. Though she tried to maintain silence, gentle sighs of pleasure escaped her lips, each sound intensifying our shared passion. I'm Michael, 35, and I live in New York with my wife Sarah, 37, and our energetic 6-year-old son, Jason. Sarah and I crossed paths 10 years ago at a swanky book launch party in Manhattan. She had just landed a job in publishing as an editor, while I was cutting my teeth as an investment analyst on Wall Street. A mutual friend played matchmaker, and from the moment we locked eyes, there was an undeniable spark between us. Sarah was this stunning woman who carried herself with such grace and intelligence. Her flowing brown hair, bright eyes, and warm smile had me hooked from day one. I especially loved watching her when she was deep in a book, her intense focus visible through her reading glasses. After a whirlwind year of dating, we tied the knot, and our world became even more magical when Jason came along. But lately, we've both been burning the candle at both ends with our careers, and that special connection we once had has started to slip away. Even our weekends have turned into work sessions, Sarah buried in manuscripts while I'm glued to financial reports. These days, we barely get a chance to really talk beyond coordinating who's picking up Jason or what's for dinner. This Christmas was shaping up to be something special. For the first time since my younger brother Brian and his family traded Silicon Valley for Boston 5 years ago, we were all getting together at our parents' cozy place in rural Pennsylvania. I'll admit I was a bit nervous about reconnecting with Brian's wife Jessica. We hadn't really talked since their wedding, but I couldn't wait to see my adorable niece Emily. On the drive up, I caught a glimpse of Sarah sleeping peacefully in the passenger seat. In the back, Jason was completely absorbed in his tablet. We still had a good 2 hours ahead of us from New York to my folks' place in Pennsylvania. "Dad, I'm starving," Jason piped up. "Hang in there, buddy. There's a rest stop coming up where we can stretch our legs." Truth be told, my stomach was growling too. Sarah stirred from her nap and said with a sleepy yawn, "A break sounds perfect right about now." After grabbing a quick bite at the rest stop, we pulled into my parents' driveway around 3 p.m. A collection of unfamiliar shoes by the door told us we weren't the first to arrive. Mom's cheerful welcome rang out as Dad, aunts, and uncles came to greet us with open arms. "Glad you guys made it," Brian said as he appeared in the hallway. He looked every bit the Silicon Valley tech guy, lean and casual cool. Jessica stepped out behind him, holding little Emily's hand. When she said, "Long time no see," something stirred in my mind, though I couldn't quite put my finger on what it was. Jessica epitomized that polished Silicon Valley vibe, tall and graceful, with sleek black hair pulled back just so. She had these incredible eyes that sparkled with both sharp intelligence and genuine warmth. Her subtle smile, which appeared whenever she spoke, had this way of making everyone around her feel instantly at ease. It was crystal clear why Brian had fallen for her. As a UX designer at a major tech firm, her attention to detail and perfectionism had earned her serious respect among her peers. The way she juggled her high-powered career while being such a devoted mom to Emily was nothing short of impressive. We greeted each other with warm hugs. Brian gave me a brotherly pat on the shoulder, asking, "Hey bro, how's life treating you?" I returned the gesture, saying, "Pretty good, man. Looks like you're doing well yourself." That moment of reconnection between long-separated brothers felt incredibly heartwarming. The living room was buzzing with holiday cheer. The uncles were having a great time, proudly showing off their wine selections, while Mom was whipping up more holiday treats in the kitchen. Sarah immediately brightened up and headed to help Mom, calling out cheerfully, "Let me give you a hand." That's when Jessica approached me with that disarming smile of hers. "So, Michael, how's the Wall Street life?" she asked in her gentle way. I found myself stumbling over my words. "Oh, you know, can't complain." Missing Silicon Valley? Her eyes lit up as she asked. It was amazing out there. But, she added with a hint of nostalgia, nothing beats home cooking. As we chatted, I noticed my heart skipped a beat. Jessica's soft-spoken manner and warm smile stirred up feelings reminiscent of my first encounters with Sarah. The realization made me uncomfortable. These weren't thoughts I should be having about my brother's wife. I deliberately looked away, trying to shake off these unexpected emotions. As the evening wore on and the wine flowed freely, the uncles got progressively more tipsy, and the conversation took a more colorful turn. Brian, you must be loving life in Boston, especially with a knockout like Jessica, one uncle commented with a wink. Hey now, Sarah's quite the catch herself, Brian shot back. That comment crystallized what had been nagging at me. Sarah and Jessica did share a certain essence. Different hairstyles aside, there was something eerily similar in their expressions and mannerisms. The alcohol buzzing through my system made me bold enough to pull Brian aside for a private chat. We wandered out to the garden where we'd spent countless childhood hours. Moonlight filtered through the snow-laden branches, creating an ethereal atmosphere. Standing there, memories of our younger days came rushing back. All those summer afternoons playing catch, building forts, and plotting adventures. Now here we were, grown men with families of our own, those innocent days forever etched in our memories. As we caught up on life, the conversation inevitably drifted to our marriages. How are things on the home front? Brian asked. Crazy busy. Sarah and I barely cross paths these days. Same boat here. Jessica's pulling late nights at the office, and I'm drowning in this new project. Marriage isn't exactly what they show in the movies, huh? I sighed. Yeah, sometimes I catch myself thinking about those early dating days, Brian admitted. Tell me about it. Feels like yesterday when Sarah and I first got together, but lately, we've been drifting apart. After a pause, I ventured carefully, Hey, have you ever noticed something? What's that? The way Sarah and Jessica, they're kind of similar. Brian fell quiet, contemplating. Taking a chance, I pressed on, what if we tried something different this Christmas? Like, you know, switching things up? They say a little excitement can breathe new life into relationships. Brian's initial shock gave way to an intrigued smile. You're crazy, bro. But honestly, I've had the same thought. We spent hours in that moonlit garden, discussing this wild and dangerous proposition. As the alcohol's influence slowly faded, we realized this wasn't just drunk talk anymore. It was morphing into a real possibility. We paced back and forth through the frost-covered grass, strategizing how to broach this delicate subject with our wives. After the children fell asleep, we gathered in the guest room upstairs for what would become a life-changing conversation. Can we talk about something? We carefully approached Sarah and Jessica. Sarah was the first to break the ice. Actually, she said with a hint of nervousness in her voice, we've been having some thoughts of our own. Brian and I exchanged meaningful glances. Jessica chimed in, her voice barely above a whisper. You know, with the holiday spirit and everything, moments like these are rare. Our marriage has hit a rough patch lately, Sarah confessed, her voice trembling slightly. Between deadlines and soccer practice, we've lost that special connection we once had. Jessica's gentle nod spoke volumes. Back in Silicon Valley with Brian, that spark we once had, it's been flickering lately. I've been thinking we might need something to reignite that passion. What I'm about to suggest. Sarah's voice trailed off, heavy with the weight of her next words. Maybe we could explore something different together. Something that could help us all rediscover what we've been missing. The unexpected alignment of our desires caught us off guard, though it was exactly what Brian and I had hoped for. None of us had anticipated that the idea of switching partners would be met with such openness. An electric tension filled the room as we looked at each other, a cocktail of anxiety and anticipation written across our faces. It felt like we were standing on the edge of something both thrilling and terrifying. Sarah and Jessica's intertwined fingers and knowing smile spoke volumes. their eyes dancing with a mix of curiosity and daring. Brian and I shared a wordless understanding. There was no going back from this moment. Our relationships were about to enter uncharted territory. Sarah's voice was barely audible when she spoke next. "We need ground rules, though." "Absolutely," Jessica agreed. Our first agreement was that this would be strictly limited to the Christmas holiday. We then established our secret protocol. With the kids' rooms situated between our respective bedrooms, ours on one side and Brian and Jessica's on the other, we agreed to carefully switch places after dark. Around midnight, Sarah peeked in on Jason to confirm he was sound asleep. "Emily's out like a light, too," Jessica whispered. The wives tiptoed down the hallway, their careful footsteps barely audible on the old wooden floorboards. When Jessica slipped into my room, I could sense her nervous energy. "This feels so surreal," she breathed. Under the covers, our breathing seemed impossibly loud. "We have to stay quiet," Jessica murmured against my ear. "I know." The silence from the next room was deafening. We could only imagine Brian and Sarah were experiencing the same mixture of anticipation and tension. This stolen moment with someone else's spouse had officially begun. Jessica's warm breath tickled my ear as she whispered, "I'm scared." "Me too. But we're in this together." Yes, our Christmas secret. When our lips finally met, Jessica's sharp intake of breath at the unfamiliar sensation of kissing someone other than Brian sent shivers down my spine. "Remember to keep it down," I cautioned. The house remained silent except for Jason's steady breathing from across the hall. "You kiss so differently from Brian," Jessica whispered against my ear. "You feel different from Sarah too." "How so?" I asked, but instead of answering, she pulled me into another passionate kiss. With delicate anticipation, we undressed each other in the intimate darkness. Jessica's slender figure was beautiful in the soft moonlight streaming through the window. My lips traced a tender path from her graceful neck down to her chest, our bodies moving together naturally. Though she tried to maintain silence, gentle sighs of pleasure escaped her lips, each sound intensifying our shared passion. Her responses only heightened my desire to bring her more pleasure, and I devoted myself completely to her satisfaction until we both reached a moment of pure ecstasy. In the afterglow of our passion, we lay intertwined, her body nestled perfectly against mine. Jessica's warmth radiated through me, creating an intoxicating sensation unlike anything I'd experienced before. The differences from Sarah were striking yet fascinating. We remained still, our breathing synchronized in comfortable silence, until Jessica's whispered confession brushed against my ear. "I've never experienced anything quite like this." I nodded in silent agreement, knowing that what we shared transcended mere physical connection. Our eyes met once more, filled with an even deeper yearning than before. Jessica's delicate touch traced patterns across my skin as I gently encircled her waist with my arms. When our lips met again, the kiss was more passionate, more urgent than before. Though silence still reigned from the adjacent room, we instinctively knew that Brian and Sarah were sharing their own intimate moment of discovery. The next morning at breakfast, we maintained perfect composure. Everyone enjoyed Mom's home cooking, but stolen glances between us sparked vivid memories of the night before. Under the dining table, Jessica's foot briefly brushed against mine before quickly retreating. We feigned normalcy, though electricity coursed through our bodies. "Anyone up for the post-holiday sales today?" Mom inquired. "Absolutely. The kids can't wait," Sarah responded with natural ease. At the crowded mall, we found ourselves naturally gravitating toward our temporary partners. "We'll check out the children's section," Jessica announced. "Then maybe electronics after." We deliberately paired off differently in the bustling crowd. On the escalator, Jessica stood close beside me while Sarah and Brian chatted quietly nearby. The risk of being seen only heightened our excitement. That evening, we carefully coordinated our bath times to avoid suspicion. Everything appeared normal on the surface. "I'll let you know when I'm finished, Michael," Jessica called out casually, an innocent comment to anyone else's ears. In the changing area, our eyes met with unspoken understanding. Later, sharing whispered conversations in the bath about our passionate night, we remained acutely aware of family members passing in the hallway. "You're so different, Michael," Jessica murmured, her skin glowing softly in the soft bathroom light. Though I knew I shouldn't stare, Jessica made no move to create distance between us. Instead, we found ourselves drawing closer together in the warm water. As our Christmas holiday drew to a close, we gathered one final time after the children were tucked in bed. The weight of what we'd shared hung heavy in the air. "Well, back to reality tomorrow," Sarah said softly, her voice tinged with emotion. Brian's response carried unmistakable regret, and we all grappled with the unexpected depth of feelings that had blossomed over these fleeting days. "Michael, please," Jessica cut in before I could speak. "Let's not complicate things. We have to return to our normal lives." Brian and Sarah's expressions mirrored the same internal struggle. Deep down, we all understood this was meant to be nothing more than a brief holiday escape, a magical moment in time, never meant to last beyond these snow-covered days. The morning of our departure, Sarah pulled me aside for a private moment. Her eyes searched mine as she asked, "We're okay, right? This was just an adventure?" I squeezed her hand reassuringly. "Of course we are. It was amazing, but you're my wife." "Yeah," she smiled softly. Across the room, we could see Brian and Jessica having their own intimate conversation by the front door. "Don't be strangers," Brian called out. "Definitely come visit for spring break," Jessica added. Our eyes met in a four-way glance that spoke volumes, an unspoken agreement passing between us. As we prepared to leave, Jessica caught my eye with a subtle gesture that made my heart skip, while Sarah exchanged a meaningful look with Brian. "We'd love to have you all back next Christmas," Mom said warmly, oblivious to the charged undercurrent between us. We exchanged knowing looks before responding in unison, "Absolutely. And we'll definitely be here for spring break too." On the drive home, I caught Sarah studying my face. "What is it?" I asked. She smiled tenderly, "Just thinking how lucky I am to have you as my husband." "I feel the same way," I replied, meaning every word. Yet even as we reaffirmed our commitment to each other, all four of us were already secretly counting down the days until spring break.